Okay, folks, this is going to be my first video of potentially a few analyzing the Trump tax return. I'm starting with 2019 first, just to kind of get a brief overview of what's going on. And I noticed this is 1,000-pager. It's a big deal. And you don't see 1,000-page tax returns very often. I was more curious on what the bill might have been than anything when I first started looking through it. But as I kind of came through, I realized, and I looked specifically at his Schedule E, that where a lot of meat and potatoes were, because he's got this pretty large, on line 7A, negative number there. And then I started to look at it and go, interesting that he's able to take roughly $16 million in losses to offset that interest income on line 2B. You can only do that if it's an active trade or business. That's what I started, and you have, you've got basis in them. That's a whole nother conversation, but for another video, but I will be looking at that too. But then I just kind of started to look down the list of losses. I started looking at his summaries of K1s. I came over and I noticed, right, non-passive loss. This is active losses. This is what got into that 16 million. And I see this nice juicy one, 10,891,604. And that was specifically for the Trump Corporation there. You can see line X. Well, what kind of threw me was row Y there, unreimbursed expenses. I thought, well, wait a minute. The Trump Corporation is an S corporation. Then you can see that S right there, right? Trump Corporation, S Corp, losses, 10,891,000. Okay, but then I see additional deductions, more losses as an S corporation. So then I thought, well, I wonder if it's these supplemental business expenses, these statement of SBEs. Sure enough, there it is, 167 for the Trump Corporation. Well, that made me think. That's interesting, because partnerships allow for such activity where you can actually take out-of-pocket expenses and reduce your partnership income. That's the concept. But in an S corporation, you're actually treated as an employee, and they need to be reimbursed under an accountable plan. Or prior to the Trump tax cuts, that's the irony, we would actually take that 167 over to Schedule A, and it would be limited to 2% and subject to alternative minimum tax and all sorts of craziness. But under the current laws for 2019, an S corporation owner officer isn't going to take out-of-pocket expenses. Even if they are legitimate business expenses, they have no place to go. You don't actually increase your loss based on this. It requires an accountable plan. So I'm going to go on a limb here and say that this is a little bit underreported by $167,000, because this play has no place to go, and it totally doesn't belong on there as an out-of-pocket expense. He should know it. It's his loss. So I think that 16 million, I think that might be a little too low and might be coming up a little bit. But stay tuned. I've got more analysis to do. That is just my first little guy to figure out what's going on here, specifically S corporations writing off out-of-pocket expenses as an officer, and you're an employee. That's subject to Schedule A rules that don't even exist since 2018 under the Trump tax cuts. Funny. Well, more to come soon.